Lorick here.
Gavich here.
Guzikowski here.
Oldani here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
And approval of minutes of February 25th, 2020. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? If there's no omissions, errors, corrections, we'll entertain a motion, please.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of February 25th, 2020.
Lorick will second.
Roll call.
And I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler abstains.
And significant common council actions. Carrie, if you would, please.
Council approved the following: an ordinance to amend Chapter 19 of the Municipal Code and to adopt the comprehensive plan of the City of Oak Creek. Also approved a resolution approving a certified survey map submitted by Walden OC LLC for the properties at 1920, 1900, 1850, 1848, 1816, 1800, 1750, and 1700 West Drexel Avenue and 7700 South IKEA Way. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Item 5, it's a review of a master landscape plan for Creekside Crossing Marketplace on various properties on West Drexel Avenue and on South IKEA Way. Carrie.
Unfortunately, my screen is not, there we go.
That's coming up.
There we go. Apologize for the delay.
It was London.
So this is a continuation of the discussion of the master landscape plan that was held at the February 25th meeting so that we could have a little bit more discussion and revision to the proposed plan. At this time, they are requesting approval for the landscape design guidelines and master landscape plan for the Creekside Crossing Marketplace development. And these guidelines and the master landscape plan were included in your packets. You can see that is a treatment and guidelines for not only the public portions and common portions of the development, but also guidelines to help the individual parcels as they develop with some concepts for landscaping, as well as an approved and recommended landscape planting list. You can see that some of the elements that were borrowed from the Drexel Town Square design as well are incorporated here. And they will follow for the rest of the development. And staff would like to provide at this time a thank you to the developer and their consultants for continuing to work through some of these issues with us. We did provide comments, and we believe that they incorporate most of what we had been discussing. So there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the proposed Creekside Crossing Marketplace Landscape Design Guidelines and Master Landscape Plan submitted by Walden OC LLC for the properties at 1920, 1900, 1850, 1848, 1816, 1800, 1750, and 1700 West Drexel Avenue, and 7700 South IKEA Way, and any future changes that may be required, maybe some minor errors or anything that we might have missed would be just minor at this point. So we would continue to work with them just for any kind of corrections that may be needed. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Would the applicant like to say anything before we start, or should we just go right to it? Michael? Okay. We'll open it up to the commission for questions, comments.
I have a question to the applicant. It's dealing with the wetlands that you have on the north end of the property.
Yes, sir.
Do you plan to do any planning or around that wetlands or kind of protect it?
Yes, I'm Michael D. Michelle, representing Walden OC. And there is a section, okay, there's two things. There's both the ponds. There's a section in this master landscape plan that talks about how we will plant around the ponds. The wetland, the large wetland between our site and IKEA is protected. It's not planned to be improved at this time. We will be coming to you sometime in the future and talking about trails, wetland, not wetland trails, but trails that will connect this development and other development parcels that are owned by Northwestern Mutual, one that's on 27th and Drexel, one that's across. We plan to connect all of those parcels with a network of trails, one that would go behind the school, et cetera, from this development. We looked at doing something like you have, west of City Hall here, at this wetland, but it wasn't conducive to that. It's just not quite big enough. But I think you're going to have that type of system, trail system, as part of the Northwestern Mutual holdings in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Owen, nothing. Chauncey, Don, Chris, anything?
I like what I see.
Greg.
First question is the trees and landscaping along Creekside Crossing Circle. Would this approve that, and then the rest would just be a general guideline for the rest of the development?
Guidelines will be applied throughout the development itself. There are requirements within the city code right now for street trees and things like that. So this gets at those requirements as well, and anything that might need a slight tweak, we will work with the applicant to make sure that those goals are met.
And referring to page 7, there's just some pictures, one of them being a natural waterfall feature, some nice limestone features. Is any of that planned, or do you anticipate any of the additional developments to include something like that?
Yeah, I'm working on some of those elements. Some of those elements are planned. We plan to integrate that into the signage. There's a possibility that at the entries, there's some columns you'll see. The overarching theme for the master landscape plan is prairie school design, the old, if you will, Frank Lloyd Wright prairie school thematics. And you'll see some images in here on page 7. And I think we're still working on the details, but these images were inspirational in some of what I think you're going to start to see as part of what we're going to do maybe at the entry, maybe at this roundabout that we've worked out at the intersection, these kinds of things.
Thank you.
It's just kind of a maybe out of the scope concern, but if we don't know what kind of development are coming in this area, it's just hard for me to foresee that landscaping. You know what I mean? For an office versus a commercial, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, so what this master landscape plan does is creates a framework by which no matter what the proposal is that comes before you, it gives rules and it gives a conceptual flavor for the type of landscaping. So when all the buildings are done, no matter what they are, they will have a kind of cohesive landscape plan and a feeling. So it helps kind of tie the entire development together, no matter what the building is.
So this is like kind of a master landscape plan, but it's not accurate pending the future.
It's only specific as it relates to Creekside Crossing Circle, which we'll be building, this spring actually. And so there are certain elements that we will build and plant as part of the streetscaping, because that we're actually doing. And some of it will be implemented in the Stan Rock Hotel development, and some of it will be implemented around the ponds and at the entries, some of those areas. So you will see this, maybe next summer, you're going to see some of this stuff start to come up. And then as buildings come before you, they will need to refer to this document as they try to design their own site specifically.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? No. I do have a couple questions. Page 4G. Statement reads, in an effort to maintain a high level of plant performance and to maintain optimal growing conditions, it's recommended that the private development landscaping incorporate a water-wise irrigation system to supplement natural rainfall. Who is going to install that and maintain that? Will
If-
it be
if
on the
it's-
individual businesses?
Correct. So that is part of a private, each individual owner, which in many cases can be Northwestern Mutual, will have to maintain their own water-wise irrigation.
And does that pertain to the landscape too? Because this is all really cool when it goes in, and then 5 years later, when it needs to be cleaned up and trimmed, who takes the maintenance on this when it's all said and done?
Well, there's a, as we talked about earlier, a declaration of covenants, restrictions, what have you. There'll be an owners association controlled by Northwestern Mutual and Walden OC. And so there'll be certain parts of the development that are maintained as a community, if you will, by all the different businesses that pay into the owners association to maintain things that are in the common right-of-way and the common, public spaces. And then each individual business then has that responsibility, and that is also part of that document that I referred to, the declarations.
Okay, so there's really no maintenance onus on the city.
No, not for the city.
Okay. Okay, that really relieves a lot of pressure. So, with that, it's very nice looking. I know, Christina, it's hard. You don't know what's going to go there, but I think Michael, explained it pretty well, that it is a framework and pretty well laid out. Really neat looking, and there's a lot to work with there. Particularly that pond. I know you can't replicate everything, but if we can open that up to people that enjoy it. And it serves two purposes, that those ponds actually control stormwater management as well as recreate. Wow, we're really doing great if we can do that on that development. So
Thank you.
looking forward to it. Is there anything else? No, I have nothing else. So with that, motion please.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission approves the proposed Creekside Crossing Marketplace Landscape Design Guidelines and Master Landscape Plan submitted by Walton OC LLC for the properties at 9020, 1900, 1850, 1848, 1816, 1800, 1750, and 1700 West Drexel Avenue and 7700 South Akia Way.
Chandler, second.
Roll call.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Bill, I.
Laura, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Vodani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great, thank you guys. Item 5B, landscape plan review, must be spring. Landscape plan review submitted by Stan Rock Hospitality for a hotel with an attached conference center at the property at 7700 South Kia Way. So, Carrie?
And Commissioners will recall that this was also discussed and held at the February 25th meeting in order to facilitate discussion partly with regard to the master landscape plan, which you just approved, and partly with regard to making sure that we had PUD requirements that were included in the landscape plan for this particular development. So let me talk you through some of the differences. This is what came through the Plan Commission initially. So you can see that there were some landscape elements that were not included along the public rights-of-way. However, we do have an updated plan, which was included in your packets and is now being shown on the screen. So we have parking areas that are required to be at least 5 feet from all public rights-of-way, front and rear lot lines per the PUD. And we did show in the previous Plan Commission review on the 25th that 2 parking stalls appear to be encroaching into that right-of-way and front setback requirement. However, the PUD does have 2 sections that could apply here. One that says that modifications to any parking setback may be granted by a 3/4 majority of the Plan Commission who are present at a meeting, but only if deemed consistent with an approved master landscaping plan. Also, a minimum 5-foot wide perimeter landscaping requirement may be modified through the same three-quarter majority requirement only if deemed consistent with an approved master landscaping plan. Since we did not have that at the last meeting, we could not recommend that the Plan Commission approve the landscape plan as was originally proposed. We have gotten some modifications that are now more closely in line with and actually conform to the master landscape plan that was just presented, with a few comments that were provided by the director, which we'll be talking through and incorporating should the Plan Commission recommend approval. So these updates also include revision to the secondary access on IKEA Way, which is that access point that we had discussed prior. It is across from the Forest Ridge Elementary School, and it was lined up based on comments with engineering staff. There are also repositioned landscape islands that go along with that reconfiguration, and landscaping has been added along the public rights-of-way. Screening for those parking stalls along the public rights-of-way need to be installed and maintained at a minimum 3-foot height. There's an averaging that goes into that in the PUD as well. This must actually appear on the plans. There are some minor revisions that would be required that we had provided in the staff comments in your packets. So with that, if the Plan Commission is satisfied incorporating those comments from staff, which again, we will continue to work with the applicant to incorporate, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the landscape plan submitted by Pete Helland, Stand Rock Hospitality, for a portion of the property at 7700 South IKEA Way, which is Lot 2 of a CSM to be recorded, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. I'll start to my left. Christina, anything yet? No? Matt? Dawn? Okay, Greg, go.
So I guess more of a technical question, because I am not an arborist. I don't know much about trees. I'm just curious as to the master plan that we just approved has on figure 4 a recommended plant list. And this landscape plan for Stand Rock Hospitality lists all the plants and trees that they intend on planting. And just from brief overlook, it looks like none of them are actually on the recommended plant list. And I'm curious as to, is that going to change the look and the color of what we just voted to approve?
I will defer to the applicant, but I can say that species of plantings can be changed, and they can do that. They can do that after a landscape plan has been approved, based on availability, based on hardiness of the plant that turns out to be either yay or nay. So we have seen some changes that come to the landscape plan in terms of species that are provided in here. You can still achieve the look and the overall goal with some substitutions, but I will now defer to the applicant to give their input as well.
Good evening, Chris Hitch, R.A. Smith, 221 South 2nd Street, Milwaukee. Yes, regarding the planting schedule that's on this plan versus in the master plan, I mean, we're comfortable working with all the staff recommendations or requests to amend the plan. Main changes being some additional tree plantings in islands in the parking lot, the screening along South IKEA Way and Creekside Crossing Circle, the buffering, that's going to be more of a vegetative screening, and then the plant schedule itself, sort of swapping out certain plant types with those on the recommended list. It was sort of like working parallel on these design tasks and coming together in the end, and we have just this little bit of coordination right at the end to clean up.
Thank you.
Okay. Jossie?
I do have a question. Can you provide a little more details on the parking stalls that were encroaching on the right-of-way and how landscaping addressed that issue?
Yeah, so there are 2 stalls that are still within the 5 feet. They're sort of directly south of the conference center, directly south of or down on the screen below the accessible parking stalls. So the 2 that get sort of closest to the public walk there. Certainly possible to eliminate those. The owner is hoping to keep them just to provide more parking at the conference center space there. The master plan and the PUD overlay sort of allows for certain areas to go within the 5 feet if the planting's provided. So we're looking at a larger massing, a larger planting bed there near the crosswalk just to the west. There's also the enhanced streetscape that's sort of happening out on the new public street right in that corner as well. So it's more than just a vegetative buffer that's happening in that space. There is some depth to the planting really on either side of that piece. That's the thought behind keeping the stalls there and going within the 5 feet in that location.
A quick question for Carrie. So with the landscaping that's identified in that area, so this is or is not acceptable?
It's acceptable if the Plan Commission by a 3/4 majority approves of the plan.
Thank you.
Fred, anything?
No, I'm fine.
Don? Nope. How about you, Chris? No, again, it's a pretty good plan. I realize parking in the islands is kind of a big deal. We required the trees to be a certain size, and looks like we're okay. Does part of the area going to the pond count for their green space on this development?
There's an overall 30% green and open space requirement for the development itself, so the entirety of the PUD. So
That's where I'm getting, because I know there's 30%, and if you just look at the parking lot, I know it encompasses maybe 10. But they do meet it. Overall.
This particular development site may go under that 30%, but again, the 30% is for the entire PUD.
For the entire PUD.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification, because we will have residents that will ask us. So, I need that education myself, so thank you. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Seeing none, motion, please.
Oldani moves that the Plan Commission approves the landscape plan submitted by Pete Helland, Stan Rock Hospitality for a portion of the property at 7700 South IKEA Way, Lot 2 of CSM to be recorded with the following conditions. That all relevant code requirements remain in effect. That all conditions of approval from the February 25th, 2020 Plan Commission review are in effect. That a revised landscape plan incorporating staff comments is submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Willow, I.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Oldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Great, thank you very much. Item 6A, plan review for site and building plans by Microbial Discovery Group for an addition to an existing multi-tenant building at 7420 South Howell Avenue. Carrie?
The proposal is for an addition to the existing building, and if we go to the site plan, you'll get an idea of what exactly we're looking at here. So this is a PUD development, and on the property, we have a multi-tenant configuration for a manufacturing building. What Microbial Discovery Group wishes to do is add a 48 by 48 addition in the loading dock area on the east to enclose some new equipment that they'd like to add to their process. As proposed, it does meet all the setbacks. It is on the east side, so it's in the loading dock interior to the development. No new employees are anticipated, therefore no new parking is required. And we can get an idea of what the elevations are. Well, here's the equipment. It is rather large equipment, so this elevation or this addition will actually be taller than the existing building somewhat. So this is just for conceptual purposes. This is not what the building is going to look like. This is not what the color is going to be. Just to give you an idea of what the addition would entail. Again, on the loading dock area interior to the development. This is giving you a perspective of what the existing building looks like and what the anticipated addition will look like as well. It will match the building in terms of color and materials, so that's precast concrete. They do show RTUs in front of the addition, so that would be facing Howell Avenue, and those would need to be screened from Howell Avenue. That's part of the requirements per code. They are not required to put in any landscaping with this addition. So basically, everything except the screening of the rooftop mechanical units are met by code. There is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Mike King of Microbial Discovery Group for the addition to the existing building on the property at 7420 South Howell Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Questions? Would you like to make a statement beforehand, sir? No, you wait? Okay. Chauncey, you look like you're ready to go.
I have a question for the applicant. You could
What's that? Microbial Discovery Group. My name is Mike King, and 7420 Howell. Although we're working right now on the lease to take the other half of the building as well.
With this addition, are there any requirements for safety purposes, like to add to the sprinkler system or additional ventilation?
That's why I thought you might need the engineer. Engineers and architects, you know.
Hi, Joe Galbraith, Galbraith Carnahan Architects, 6404 West North Avenue. So the addition to the building will require an extension of the sprinkler system, and there will be tempering of the space with an additional air conditioning unit and heating unit. And there's also equipment that goes on the roof that will serve the process equipment. So this is for their manufacturing process. They need some equipment that'll live on the outside of the building. As she mentioned, that we'll have screening. So what we're doing is on the north and south ends of that particular addition, we're raising the parapet up so that it will block the view of that. So in those renderings that are up on the screen now, everything is up high enough to screen the condition. And then from Howell, it's so far back. It's at the way back of the building that there's no actual view of the rooftop equipment from that angle. So
Any modifications to, or?
Is it more of an extension of the mechanicals and the sprinkler system?
Okay.
So the sprinkler system will extend in there. The building has a full sprinkler system.
And what about a ventilation system?
Correct. Whatever the code dictates for tempering that space.
Okay,
So, yes.
thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, I have a question about is there any environmental issues that you may have with the process that you have there?
I'll have to defer to the engineers on that.
Dominic Androga, so Microbial Discovery Group. So what we at MDG we do is we actually grow probiotics, and so that's what we'll be processing at the plant. And there are no environmental concerns that we are aware of, since we're just growing strains that are really not.
Nothing to worry about the ventilation or exhaust?
So the unit is a spray dryer whereby we'll be putting in all the required safety precautions. That includes, since we'll be working with some materials that we're drying it to be in dust form. So we do have a unit, as you can, included there that has a scrubber, whereby we do have a bag house, a filtering system that will trap most of the particulates. And then we do have a scrubber that will also comprises of just a solution that through which we exhaust the gas. So there'll be nothing going out except just clean gas, essentially. So none of the particulates in the building will escape.
Thank you.
Don? Chris?
My questions were answered. Thank you.
Christina?
Yes, actually, I do have a question, just to kind of echo his question. What if you have an outbreak or failed equipment here, and you're working with probiotic or those type of chemicals? What is your second plan to avoid that? Or a backup plan, I should say. If you have a failed mechanical issue and you're processing all those chemicals.
Well, it's not, just to correct, the probiotics are not pathogenic, essentially. However, in terms of the equipment comes with certain safety systems that are inbuilt. So we do have pressure relief vents that will be included in. We do have safety canisters that in case of any pressure buildup, for example, that will go off, and that will alleviate any cases of any concerns that will come up with, let's say, working with high heat, because we'll be using an electric heater to be able to heat up the air. So there will be inbuilt safety systems with the unit. And that, in addition to that, most of the time, when running this equipment, you do have a certain standard operating procedure that everybody has to follow. So there are certain locking mechanisms in which you can program in such a way that the system is, in case of any failures, that it goes into a shutdown on its own.
I was gonna say, okay, second question is, what is the hours of operation?
This is going to vary depending on so we're looking at essentially on a weekly, it can be between, a shift is about 8 hours. So at the moment, we're still working out the schedule per se, but you're looking at not more than maybe 20 hours in a week. So
Okay, so it's not 20, like
it's not a
24 hours.
24/7 operation. No.
Okay, I was just gonna ask if there is any noise issues, especially with those large mechanical that we may be concerned with. No?
Because they're enclosed, it's part of the building.
Okay.
And it's in a manufacturing district, so that's
So-
what we would expect to have there anyway. Anything noise related would be measured at the property line. They'd have to comply with the noise ordinance.
All right, that's all what I have.
Yeah. On. Craig?
Staff just has one request, and that is for there to be like a line of sight distance so that we can verify that the mechanical units will be screened from Howell Avenue.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. Second question, Assistant Chief Havey, any concerns from fire regarding sprinkling? Obviously, they're going to have built-in shutoffs per NFPA 70E, but anything else you getting to the units? And of course, they're using chemicals, something that.
I'm Mike Havey, Assistant Chief Fire. We don't have any concerns with the proposal at this point. The applicant is aware of all the codes that they have to require to install. So at this point, it's the size of it, so access is really not really an issue for us because it's not necessarily larger than the original building. And it is part of that system is still the FDC, and that original system is just being extended onto it. So no concerns.
And then Carrie kind of answered my one question. I do have just a couple of questions. Kind of really doesn't maybe pertain to it. Just very quickly, you're going to have a bag and a shaker because this product, you take the particles out, it turns to basically dust or a product. Will that bag, that shaker be within the addition? Won't be outside? And then does that go to drums to be taken away?
The bag house is actually next to the dryer within the same enclosed building.
Okay, and you put it in 55-gallon drums and then take it out probably?
Yes, we put them in poly drums and just.
Okay. And then this has really nothing to do with anything, but what does the product do? It sounds kind of cool.
We do have it's probiotics that we use them in different market segments, like some go into animal feed. So there's a lot of push for people to move away from using antibiotics. So
Okay.
one alternative is to use these probiotics, essentially.
Okay.
That's what.
Great. Other than that, Carrie took care of it. My big concern was off Howell Avenue, but it does sit pretty elevated on a hill. I guess I can kind of see that.
We just need to confirm it through basically a diagram showing us the distance from the mechanical unit to Howell Avenue, just a sight distance. We've seen those before.
Okay. Great. Thank you, sir. Any other questions before we move for motion? In motion, please.
Clerk moves that the Plan Commission approve the site and building plans submitted by Mike King, Microbial Discovery Group, for the addition to the existing building on the property at 7420 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. Number one, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Number two, that the plans are revised to include screening details for all new and relocated mechanicals, transformers, and utilities. All mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened from view. And number 3, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Chandler, seconds.
Roll call.
Anna, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hold on, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Right. Good luck, guys. 6B, conditional use permit for Oak Creek Health LLC for a licensed massage therapy and acupuncture clinic at an existing multi-tenant commercial building located at 9555 South Howell. Carrie.
So the request is for licensed massage therapy as part of a greater clinic portion of the property at 9555. It is an existing multi-tenant building. There are 2 tenant spaces that are empty that would be taken over by the proposed use, which is Live Oak Health. So they are actually looking to lease about 1,500 square feet of the existing building. This is going to be in an outpatient clinic setting, so this is going to be specific to certain providers. They have 5 employees in total, 1 licensed acupuncturist and licensed massage therapist, 2 licensed massage therapists, 1 administrative assistant, and 1 office manager and owner. So they will only be able to see up to about 4 clients at a time. Per their preliminary interior build out, it looks like they're going to have just about 4 office spaces or exam rooms, if you will. And they are planning on having hours of operation that are Monday through Saturday. And the various breakdowns of those hours of operation are included in your packets. They will not provide any services on Sunday, and no services will be provided past 8 p.m. or before 7 a.m. Parking requirements for medical, dental, and similar health provision services are listed as 5 patron spaces per doctor plus one stall for every peak shift employee. So that would equate to about 20 that would be required for the proposal. And the lease agreement, according to the information that we received, includes 20 parking stalls. So it will be up to the landowner to ensure that the management of the existing parking for the remaining tenants is fulfilled and make sure that there are no overlaps there. There are no site or exterior building modifications proposed. We do anticipate that there will be signage submitted for permits at some point, and existing trash receptacles on the property will be utilized, so we do not have any new enclosures or anything that are proposed with this use. If the Plan Commission would like to recommend approval, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for a licensed massage therapy clinic within the existing multi-tenant commercial building on the property at 9555 South Howell Avenue after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Plan Commission's review at the next meeting, which is March 24th. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. At this time, does the applicant want to say anything or wait for questions? Okay. Josie, you got something?
Yes, I have a question for the applicant.
Lauren Lucia Rayhorst, and our address is currently, or
It can be the business address too.
9555 South Howell. Sorry, I haven't memorized it yet. Suite 710.
A question on disposal. It sounds like there aren't any additional trash compactors being added. However, the waste that may come out of your facility sounds like it may have to be separate than just regular trash. How would that be handled?
Are you referring to the medical waste with acupuncture?
Yes.
So I have sharps containers, like any other type of hypodermic needle that's used in a medical facility. They're quart-sized, and they take a long time to fill. So they're actually services that will pick them up if we were to get any kind of volume. But right now, there's free pickup at many pharmacies and local health departments. That's what we've been doing so far.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Brad, anything? Connie?
Questions?
Chris?
None for me, except for it's good to see that this part of this building is getting going to be resurrected and put to use. So that's good to see.
Thank you.
Craig? Oh,
No? I'm
no,
ready.
You know, the only question I have, your hours on Saturday, you go till 5? Summertime, you may want to look at that. Georgie Porgy tends to have a car show. It gets
That's
pretty
true.
crowded there, so parking's really, it is, they're all over the place. Let's put it that way. It's the greatest car show in
Sure.
the city.
Yes, you're right. So right now, my massage therapists alternate Saturdays. There's only one therapist there on Saturday right now, and that's what I foresee for at least a little while until we can figure out the parking situation.
Maybe a business boom for you too. But anyways, they make do over there. But I think it's a unique business, and I do think we did have an acupuncturist at one time, but I don't know if they're still around. They were at the marketplace years ago.
Oh, I heard that she has either retired or moved to Ohio.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Neat. I hope you do very well. I have no concerns. So I think it's good use of the building. It's kind of been a little underutilized there for a bit, so it'll be good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Motion, please.
Clerk moves that the Plan Commission recommend that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for a licensed massage therapy clinic within the existing multi-tenant commercial building on the property at 9555 South Howell Avenue after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Plan Commission's review at the next meeting, March 24th, 2020.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Kavich, aye. It went right over me. That's okay. That's the way it goes sometimes. And just before we get to adjournment, just one short announcement. The census is coming up. It's going to be mailed out April 1st. I might be a little ahead, but all reminders are good. It's really vital that everybody in the city fills it out. A lot of our funding, you may not know this, but comes from the census being filled out. So whether you're a business owner, resident, we do need you to fill that census out. So, we got anything else? Anything else I missed? I think it's too early for the egg hunt. But there is an Easter egg hunt April 3rd here at Emerald Preserve. So mark your calendars for that. With that, thanks to Tim. Thanks, Carrie. As always, good job. Thanks for coming, Mike. Appreciate fire here. Adjournment, please.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 6:43.
Hannah, seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
All right, good night. Thank you.